The muffled sound of duct tape being ripped echoed through the underground loading dock. Travis Cooper's hands tightened around the mop handle, his pulse steady despite the chaos unfolding 30 feet ahead. 4 armed men in ski masks surrounded a woman in an expensive Navy suit, her designer briefcase kicked aside on the oil-stained concrete. Tessa McCarthy, the billionaire CEO whose face graced business magazines, now had a gun pressed against her temple, her normally commanding presence reduced to trembling hands and wide, terrified eyes. The kidnappers dragged her toward a waiting van, their voices harsh with urgency. Travis's mind shifted instantly. Distance, exit points, weapons, muscle memory from another lifetime kicked in. They saw him as just another maintenance worker, a single dad barely scraping by. They had no idea who he really was. The mop handle shifted in his grip. What happened next would change everything for both of them. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. The Harlow Financial Tower's underground loading dock smelled of diesel fuel and stale coffee. At 11:47 p.m., it should have been empty except for the overnight maintenance crew. Travis Cooper had been mopping the same section of concrete for the past hour, his movements slow and deliberate, the kind of invisible labor that people in expensive suits never noticed. He was counting on that invisibility now. The black cargo van had pulled in 20 minutes ago, its arrival too quiet, too careful. Travis had watched from behind a support column as 4 men emerged, their movements coordinated in a way that set off every alarm bell in his mind. No delivery company operated with that kind of precision at midnight. No legitimate business required ski masks and the telltale bulges of concealed weapons beneath winter jackets. Then she had appeared. Tessa McCarthy, founder and CEO of McCarthy Global Industries, one of the youngest self-made billionaires in the country. Travis had seen her photo in the employee newsletter, always dressed impeccably, always wearing that confident smile that said she owned whatever room she entered. The woman being dragged from the executive elevator looked nothing like those photos. Her navy suit jacket was torn at the shoulder. Her carefully styled blonde hair had come loose from its pins. Blood trickled from her split lip, where someone had obviously hit her. But her eyes, those sharp, intelligent eyes that had negotiated billion-dollar deals, burned with fury even as fear flickered at their edges. "Keep moving," the tallest kidnapper growled, shoving the gun harder against her temple. Tessa stumbled, her expensive heels catching on the uneven concrete. She didn't cry out, didn't beg. That impressed Travis more than it probably should have. The second kidnapper yanked open the van's rear doors. "We're behind schedule. Boss wants her at the warehouse by midnight." Travis's grip tightened on the mop handle. His daughter's face flashed through his mind. Emma, 9 years old, currently asleep at his sister's apartment across town because his shift didn't end until 2 a.m. He thought about what his late wife Sarah would say if she could see him now. She'd always hated the dangerous parts of his old life, the parts that had eventually driven them to the edge of divorce before cancer had stolen that choice from both of them. But Sarah wasn't here. Emma was safe. And this woman, this stranger who probably didn't know his name despite signing his paychecks, was about to disappear into a nightmare. The decision took less than a second. Travis moved. Not rushed, not panicked. With the same fluid efficiency that had once carried him through hostile territory in places that didn't officially exist. The mop clattered to the ground as he closed the distance, his worn work boots silent on concrete. The element of surprise was everything. They expected resistance from their victim, not from the janitor. The first kidnapper never saw him coming. Travis drove his elbow into the man's kidney with surgical precision, the kind of strike that shut down the nervous system before pain could even register. The gun clattered away as the man collapsed, gasping. Travis caught the weapon before it hit the ground, his muscle memory taking over despite 4 years of pushing mops instead of clearing rooms. Gun. The second kidnapper spun, reaching for his own weapon. Too slow. Travis swept his legs out from under him with a calculated kick, then drove his knee into the man's solar plexus as he fell. The air rushed from his lungs in a wheezing gasp. 2 down. 6 seconds elapsed. The third kidnapper had better instincts. He released Tessa and brought his weapon up in a smooth arc. Travis was already moving, using the second kidnapper's body as a shield as he rolled behind a concrete support column. The shot went wild, pinging off metal pipes overhead. "Federal agent," Travis shouted, his voice carrying the command authority he hadn't used in years. A lie, but a useful one. "Drop your weapons." Confusion rippled through the remaining kidnappers. That hesitation was fatal in tactical situations. Travis emerged from cover, the stolen pistol steady in his hands. He didn't aim at the shooter, he aimed at the van's front tire and pulled the trigger twice. The rubber exploded, with a sharp hiss of escaping air. No getaway vehicle meant no extraction plan. Professionals knew when to cut losses. "We've got backup coming," the tall one hissed, grabbing his fallen partner. "Leave her. Move." They scrambled for the exit stairwell, dragging their unconscious companion between them. Travis tracked them with the gun, but didn't fire. Shooting fleeing suspects went against every rule of engagement he'd ever learned. And despite what his hands remembered, he wasn't that person anymore. Wasn't supposed to be. The loading dock fell silent, except for the hiss of the deflating tire and Tessa's ragged breathing. Travis lowered the weapon, his hand steady despite the adrenaline screaming through his system. He turned to find Tessa McCarthy pressed against the concrete wall, her eyes wide with shock and something else, the sharp assessment of someone who made their living reading people and situations. "Are you hurt?" Travis asked, his voice gentler now, back to the quiet tone he used with Emma when she woke from nightmares. Tessa touched her split lip, seemed surprised when her fingers came away bloody. "I'm fine." "Who are you?" "You're not just maintenance. Right now, I'm the guy who needs to get you somewhere safe." Travis ejected the magazine from the stolen gun, cleared the chamber with practiced ease, and set the pieces on a nearby crate. "We should call the police." "No." The word came out sharp, decisive. Tessa pushed away from the wall, some of that boardroom authority returning despite her disheveled state. "Not yet. I need to understand what just happened." Travis studied her. Most people would be hysterical by now, or at least shaking. Tessa McCarthy looked angry. "Ma'am, 4 armed men just tried to kidnap you. The police need to. Those men knew exactly when I'd be here, knew which elevator I'd take, knew I'd be alone." Her voice shook slightly on the last word. "Someone on my security team sold me out. Until I know who, I don't know who to trust." It was good thinking, the kind of tactical assessment that kept people alive in hostile situations. Travis had learned that lesson the hard way in the mountains of Afghanistan when bad intelligence had nearly gotten his entire team killed. "Okay," he said slowly. "But we can't stay here. They said something about backup." Tessa nodded, straightening her torn jacket with trembling fingers. For the first time, she really looked at him, not through him, the way executives usually looked at maintenance staff, but at him, taking in his 6-foot frame, the military precise way he stood, the calm in his eyes despite what had just happened. "What's your name?" "Travis Cooper." "Well, Travis Cooper." She managed a slight, pained smile. "Thank you for saving my life. Now, please tell me you have a plan for what comes next." Travis thought about his sister's apartment, about Emma sleeping peacefully, about the carefully constructed ordinary life he'd built from the wreckage of his past. Thought about how all of that was about to get very complicated. "Working on it," he said. 72 hours earlier, Travis Cooper's alarm had gone off at 5:30 a.m. with the harsh beep of a $15 clock radio. No snooze button, no gradual wake-up sounds, just the immediate summons to consciousness that his body still responded to even after 4 years of civilian life. He was out of bed before the second beep, his hand reaching for a sidearm that was no longer there before his brain caught up to remind him where and who he was now. Just Travis. Single dad. Overnight maintenance worker at Harlow Financial Tower. Former Navy SEAL. But that was another lifetime. The apartment was small, but meticulously organized. Not because Travis was naturally neat, but because chaos management had been drilled into him during basic underwater demolition training. Everything had its place. The studio was divided into functional zones: sleeping area, kitchen, and Emma's corner with her bed tucked behind a carefully hung curtain for privacy. Not ideal, but it was what he could afford on his salary, and it was safe. That mattered more than square footage. Travis moved through his morning routine with quiet efficiency. Shower. Shave. The same gray maintenance uniform he wore every night. The company logo stitched over the breast pocket. He checked his reflection briefly. Still the same face, though the lines around his eyes had deepened since Sarah's death. Still the same broad shoulders and lean build, maintained through bodyweight exercises he did while Emma slept. He couldn't afford a gym membership, and the apartment complex didn't have a fitness center, but push-ups and pull-ups didn't require equipment. Emma's alarm went off at 6:15. Travis heard the groan from behind her curtain, the sound of a 9-year-old who decidedly was not a morning person. He smiled despite himself. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now, back to the story. Up and at 'em, kiddo, he called softly. School in 45. 5 more minutes, came the muffled response. That's what you said yesterday, and we were almost late. Travis started the coffee maker, ancient machine that had belonged to Sarah, and pulled out the cereal boxes. Come on, Em. We had a deal. The curtain rustled, and Emma emerged in her favorite pajamas, the ones covered in stars and planets. She'd inherited her mother's dark curls and sharp mind, but she had Travis's gray eyes and stubborn chin. Sarah used to joke that Emma got the best parts of both of them. Travis hoped that was true. Can we have pancakes? Emma asked, rubbing sleep from her eyes. It's Tuesday. Pancakes are Saturday. Travis poured milk over her cereal. But I'll make them this weekend. Promise. They ate together at the small kitchen table. Emma chattering about her upcoming science project, while Travis listened with the focused attention he'd once applied to mission briefings. She wanted to build a model of the solar system with actual orbiting planets powered by a motor. It was ambitious. It was probably beyond her current skill level. Travis was absolutely going to help her try anyway. Dad? Emma looked at him seriously, milk mustache on her upper lip. Tyler's dad is taking him to the hockey game next week. Can we go sometime? Travis's chest tightened. Hockey tickets were expensive. So was everything else. Lately, rent had gone up. Emma needed new shoes. And the car was making a concerning noise he'd been ignoring. Maybe, he said carefully. Let me check the schedule. Emma nodded, accepting this non-answer, the way she'd learned to accept a lot of things. She was growing up too fast, becoming too understanding of their financial reality. 9-year-olds shouldn't have to understand that daddy works the night shift because it pays an extra $2 an hour. After breakfast, Travis walked Emma to the bus stop 3 blocks away. The neighborhood wasn't dangerous, but he never let her go alone. Old habits. Sarah used to tease him about being overprotective, but after everything he'd seen, everything he'd done, keeping Emma safe felt like the only mission that truly mattered. Love you, kiddo, he said, as the yellow bus pulled up. Love you too, Dad. Emma hugged him quickly. She was getting to the age where public displays of affection were embarrassing, and bounded up the steps. She turned and waved from her usual seat, and Travis waved back until the bus turned the corner. Then he walked back to the apartment, the morning sun harsh against his tired eyes. He had exactly 7 hours before he needed to pick Emma up from after-school care. 7 hours to sleep, grocery shop, pay bills, and try not to think about the slowly dwindling balance in his checking account. Back in the apartment, Travis pulled out his laptop, another relic from Sarah's teaching days. He logged into his bank account and stared at the numbers. Rent was due in 5 days. He had enough, barely, but that would leave almost nothing for groceries. The credit card was maxed from Emma's dentist visit last month. His sister had offered to help. Offered multiple times. But Travis couldn't bring himself to accept. Jennifer had her own family, her own bills. He closed the laptop and lay down on the thin mattress, staring at the water-stained ceiling. This wasn't how his life was supposed to look. At 18, joining the Navy had felt like destiny. At 22, making it through SEAL training had felt like purpose. At 26, marrying Sarah had felt like coming home. At 31, watching her die in a hospital bed while Emma slept in the chair beside him had felt like the end of everything. Now, at 35, he was just trying to keep his head above water, literally and figuratively. Travis had left the Navy 6 months after Sarah's diagnosis. The combat deployments, the constant uncertainty, the weeks away from home, it had all become unbearable when every moment with his wife was suddenly precious. He'd taken an honorable discharge, cashed out his savings, and focused entirely on Sarah's care and Emma's stability. After Sarah died, the life insurance had covered the funeral and paid off their medical debt. Nothing left over. Travis had applied for dozens of jobs, but the economy was tight, and his skill set didn't translate well to civilian work. What did you put on a resume? Proficient in close-quarters combat, underwater demolition, and tactical insertion. He'd finally landed the maintenance job through a veterans employment program. The pay was terrible, but they didn't ask many questions, and the night shift meant he could be present for Emma during the day. He wasn't complaining. This was his choice. Emma had lost her mother. She wouldn't lose her father too, not to another deployment, not to the kinds of jobs that required him to be absent or in danger. She deserved stability, routine, a parent who showed up. Even if that parent was barely making ends meet. Travis forced himself to sleep for 5 hours. When he woke, he grocery shopped with military efficiency, store-brand everything, careful calculations at the checkout to stay within budget. He picked up Emma from Pine Ridge Elementary's after-school program at 4 p.m. exactly. She ran to him with a papier-mâché sculpture that looked like either a volcano or a very lumpy dog. Travis couldn't quite tell. "It's Mount Vesuvius," Emma announced proudly, "for our unit on ancient Rome." "It's perfect," Travis said honestly. Everything Emma made was perfect to him. They spent the evening together in their carefully orchestrated routine. Homework at the kitchen table, while Travis prepped dinner spaghetti with meat sauce, Emma's favorite. They ate together, talking about her day, about the upcoming science project, about nothing and everything. After dinner, they washed dishes side by side, Emma standing on a step stool to reach the sink. At 8 p.m., Travis read to her from their current book, a fantasy novel about dragons and unlikely heroes. Emma loved stories about ordinary people doing extraordinary things. Travis wondered what she'd think if she knew her ordinary dad used to be someone extraordinary, someone dangerous. "Dad?" Emma asked as he tucked her in. "Do you miss Mom?" The question hit like always, unexpected and sharp. "Every day, Em. Every single day. Me too." She hugged her stuffed bear, a gift from Sarah on Emma's 4th birthday. "But I'm glad I have you." Travis kissed her forehead, throat tight. "I'm glad I have you too, kiddo. Sleep tight." He turned out her light and retreated to the kitchen, checking his watch. 8:30 p.m. His shift started at 10 p.m. He needed to leave by 9:30 to catch the bus across town. Jennifer would arrive at 9:15 to stay overnight with Emma. They'd been doing this dance for 2 years now. When his sister arrived, Travis was already in his uniform, backpack, ready with his water bottle and the sandwich he'd made for his midnight break. "Any big plans tonight?" Jennifer asked, settling onto the couch with her tablet. She was 5 years older than Travis, had 2 teenagers of her own, and never once made him feel like a burden despite how often she helped with Emma. "Living the dream," Travis said dryly, mopping floors and emptying trash in a 40-story office building. "You know you could ask for more help, right? Brad's been doing well at the firm. We could—" "I appreciate it, Jen. Really. But we're okay." The lie came easily. Pride was expensive, but it was all Travis had left sometimes. Jennifer didn't push. She just hugged him, told him to be safe, and settled in to watch her shows while Emma slept. Travis caught the 9:40 bus, watching the city lights blur past. The financial district gleamed with wealth he'd never touch, buildings full of people whose biggest worry was whether their stock options vested this quarter. He didn't resent them. He just existed in a different world, moving through their spaces after hours, invisible. At Harlow Financial Tower, he checked in with security, collected his cleaning cart, and began his nightly rounds. 40 floors of offices, conference rooms, executive suites. Empty desks, bearing photos of families on vacation, in places Travis would never afford to visit. Trash bins full of half-eaten takeout. That cost more than his grocery budget. It was all just background noise. Travis was on the 32nd floor, vacuuming the reception area, when his phone buzzed with a text from Emma. She'd woken up and wanted to say goodnight again. He smiled, sent back a heart emoji, and returned to work. Just another night. Just another shift in his carefully ordinary life. He had no idea everything was about to change. The safe house wasn't really a safe house. It was Travis's apartment at 2:47 a.m. on a Wednesday morning, and Tessa McCarthy looked profoundly out of place sitting on his second-hand couch, still wearing her torn designer suit. Travis had made the call based on pure tactical necessity. Tessa couldn't go home that was likely compromised. She couldn't go to a hotel too easy to track. His apartment was off-grid, paid in cash, listed under his sister's name from before he'd moved in. It wasn't perfect, but it bought them time. "I should call Jennifer," Travis muttered, pacing the small space. "She's with Emma. She needs to know I'm bringing someone here." "Emma?" Tessa looked up from the ice pack she was pressing to her split lip. "My daughter. She's 9. She's sleeping at my sister's place tonight because I work nights." Travis ran a hand through his hair, his mind racing through scenarios. "If those men figure out who I am, they'll look for leverage. Emma's my leverage." Tessa's expression shifted, something sharp and calculating moving behind her eyes. "You have a daughter. A 9-year-old daughter. And you still stepped in to help me. What else was I supposed to do? Let them take you?" Travis stopped pacing, met her gaze directly. "I've done a lot of things I'm not proud of, Miss McCarthy. Standing by while someone gets kidnapped isn't going to be added to that list." "Tessa," she said quietly, "if you're risking your daughter's safety for me, you should probably call me Tessa." Travis nodded, pulled out his phone, and called Jennifer. The conversation was brief and carefully vague. Unexpected work situation. Needed to bring a colleague to the apartment. Everything was fine. Jennifer knew better than to ask too many questions when Travis used that particular tone of voice. She agreed to keep Emma at her place for the rest of the night, maybe into the morning if needed. After he hung up, silence settled over the apartment. Tessa looked around, taking in the organized efficiency, the curtain dividing Emma's sleeping area, the stack of bills on the kitchen counter that Travis had forgotten to put away. He watched her process it all. This glimpse into a life so far removed from her world of boardrooms and billions. "You live here," she said. Not a question, an observation that carried weight. "It's not much, but it's ours." Defensive. Travis heard it in his own voice and hated it. "That's not what I meant." Tessa set down the ice pack. "I meant you live here in this small space, working a maintenance job for what I'm guessing is barely above minimum wage, and you still have military training that would probably qualify you for private security positions that pay 6 figures. Travis moved to the kitchen, needing something to do with his hands. He filled a glass with water, drank it down. Those jobs require travel, unpredictable hours, high-risk situations. I have Emma to think about. Her mother died 4 years ago, cancer. The words still hurt, but the edges were duller now. Sarah was a teacher, 3rd grade. She was good at it, good at everything that mattered. Tessa was quiet for a moment. When she spoke again, her voice was softer. "I'm sorry for your loss." "Thank you." Travis refilled his glass, offered one to Tessa. She accepted it, their fingers briefly touching in the exchange. What about you? Family? Someone we should call to let them know you're safe? My parents are dead. Car accident. When I was 22. Tessa sipped the water. No siblings. No spouse. I built McCarthy Global from nothing because I had nothing else to build. There was something hollow in that admission, something Travis recognized from his own reflection on bad days. The loneliness of survival, the exhaustion of constant fighting. Must be isolating, he said. Being that successful. You have no idea. Tessa laughed, but there was no humor in it. Everyone wants something. Everyone has an angle. Business partners, board members, the men I've dated. They see the company, the money, the power. They don't see me. Travis leaned against the counter, studying her. Without the CEO armor, the perfect hair, the intimidating confidence, she looked younger, vulnerable, human. Those kidnappers saw you as a commodity, a bargaining chip for whatever they wanted from your company. Probably. Tessa set down her glass. McCarthy Global has enemies. We've disrupted a lot of industries, refused to play by the old rules, made people nervous. I've received threats before, but nothing like tonight. You need professional help, real security, not whatever system failed you in that parking garage. Travis moved to the window, checking the street out of habit. Empty. Quiet. For now. I can make some calls. I know people from my Navy days who work in executive protection. Will you be one of those people? The question caught Travis off guard. He turned to find Tessa standing, her arms wrapped around herself, her expression unreadable. What? Will you work for me? As personal security? Tessa took a step closer. You already saved my life once. You think tactically. You stayed calm under pressure. And more importantly, you have something to lose, which means you're not just doing this for money. That makes you trustworthy. Travis shook his head. I'm not that person anymore. I push a mop. I go home to my daughter. I live a quiet life. Those men put a gun to my head tonight, Travis. Someone in my organization sold me out. Tessa's voice shook slightly. I need someone I can trust. Someone who sees me as a person, not a paycheck. You've already proven you're that someone. You don't know me. You don't know what I've done. The words came out harsh. Travis thought about the missions that didn't make it into official records, the decisions made in split seconds that haunted his dreams. I'm not a hero. I'm just trying to keep my head down and raise my daughter. You saved my life. Tessa closed the remaining distance between them, her eyes searching his face. That makes you a hero in my book. I can't. Travis backed away, needing space. Emma needs stability, routine, a dad who comes home every night, not someone who's potentially putting himself in danger. What kind of stability can you give her on a maintenance worker's salary? The question was blunt but not unkind. I saw those bills on your counter, Travis. I saw the store-brand groceries, the furniture that's one step above thrift store. You're drowning, and you're too proud to ask for help. The truth of it stung. Travis's jaw tightened. That's not your concern. It is now. You made it my concern when you saved me. Tessa's voice softened. I'm offering you a way to give Emma more. Better apartment. Better school. College fund. Security. All while using skills you already have instead of wasting them mopping floors. Those skills were meant for war, not babysitting billionaires. The words came out cruel, but Travis couldn't stop them. This woman was offering him everything he needed, and it terrified him. Tessa flinched, but didn't back down. Is that what you think your military service was? Just skills for war? Because I saw something different tonight. I saw training that saved a life. Discipline that stayed calm in chaos. Honor that couldn't walk away from someone in danger. That's not war, Travis. That's character. Travis closed his eyes, fighting the pull of her words. He thought about Emma's face when he'd said maybe to the hockey game. Thought about the way she'd outgrown her winter coat but hadn't complained because she knew money was tight. Thought about the college fund that didn't exist and the future he wanted to give her but couldn't afford. "If I say yes," he said slowly, "Emma comes first. Always. Non-negotiable." "Agreed. And I need guarantees. Legal ones. That she's protected. That there's provision for her if something happens to me." "Done. My lawyers will draw up whatever you need." Tessa took a breath. "But Travis, I need you to understand something. I don't want you to die for me. I want you to help me live, to help me figure out who betrayed me and why. To keep me safe while I do it. That's not a suicide mission. That's a partnership." Partnership. The word echoed in the small apartment. Travis opened his eyes and found Tessa watching him with an intensity that made him feel seen in a way he hadn't experienced since Sarah died. Not as a maintenance worker, not as a broken veteran, just as himself. "Okay," he heard himself say, "but we do this smart. We figure out who's after you, we neutralize the threat, and then we're done. This isn't a permanent job." Relief flooded Tessa's face. "Thank you. Don't thank me yet." Travis moved to the coffee maker, suddenly needing to do something normal, something grounding. "First thing tomorrow, we need to make a list of everyone who knew your schedule today. Security team, assistants, board members, anyone who could have tipped off those kidnappers." "Tomorrow?" Tessa glanced at the window, where dawn was starting to paint the sky gray. "It is tomorrow." Travis checked his watch. 4:17 a.m. In 2 hours, Jennifer would bring Emma home. His daughter would walk into this apartment and find a billionaire CEO on their couch. He had no idea how to explain that. "You should try to sleep," he said, pulling a blanket from the hall closet. "Take Emma's bed. She won't mind." "Where will you sleep?" "I won't." Travis handed her the blanket, their fingers brushing again. "Old habit. Someone needs to keep watch." Tessa accepted the blanket, her expression unreadable. "For what it's worth, I'm sorry. For disrupting your life. For dragging you into my mess." "You didn't drag me anywhere. I chose this." Travis moved back to the window, resuming his watch of the quiet street. "Now get some rest. Tomorrow's going to be complicated." He heard Tessa move behind the curtain, heard the soft sounds of her settling into Emma's small bed. The apartment fell quiet except for the ambient noise of the city waking up. Travis stood sentinel, his mind already working through scenarios and contingencies, through the ways this could go wrong and the ways he'd prevent that. Somewhere in the pre-dawn darkness, his phone buzzed. A text from Jennifer. "Emma, asking about you. Everything really okay?" Travis typed back, "Everything's fine. Tell her I love her. Home soon." Another lie. Another small crack in the wall between his past and present. Travis pocketed his phone and returned to his watch, wondering if he'd just made the best decision of his life or the worst. Behind him, in his daughter's bed, a woman worth billions slept fitfully, trusting a man she barely knew to keep her alive. In 2 hours, his 9-year-old daughter would come home to a life that had already begun to change in ways neither of them could predict. And Travis Cooper, former Navy SEAL turned maintenance worker turned reluctant bodyguard, stood between his old life and his new one, protecting both with everything he had left. It would have to be enough. Emma came home at 6:47 a.m. with sleep-mussed hair and questions Travis wasn't ready to answer. "Why is there a fancy lady in my bed?" she asked, standing in the doorway with her backpack still on, staring at the curtain that separated her sleeping area from the rest of the apartment. Travis knelt down to her eye level, hands on her small shoulders. "Her name is Tessa. She's someone I'm helping with a work situation. She needed a safe place to stay for a few hours." "Is she in trouble?" Emma's gray eyes, so much like his own, narrowed with concern. At 9 years old, she'd already learned that adults didn't always tell the whole truth, especially when they were trying to protect you. "Maybe, but we're going to make sure she's okay." Travis brushed a curl from Emma's forehead. "I need you to be patient and understanding today. Can you do that for me? Emma nodded slowly, then surprised him by asking, Is this like your old job, the one you don't talk about? The question hit harder than it should have. Travis had been so careful, so deliberate about keeping those two worlds separate. He never spoke about his Navy days around Emma, never mentioned deployments or missions or the things he'd done in the name of national security. She knew he'd been in the military, that was impossible to hide, but he'd framed it as just another job, nothing special, nothing dangerous. What makes you ask that? Travis kept his voice level, casual. You move different when you're worried, Emma said, with the blunt observation of someone who'd spent her whole life reading her father's moods. Like you did after Mom died. Like you're ready to fight something even though nothing's there. Travis pulled Emma into a hug, overwhelmed by her perceptiveness and terrified by what it meant. She was watching him more closely than he'd realized, seeing things he'd tried to hide. You're too smart for your own good, kiddo, he murmured against her hair. Yes, this is connected to my old job. But I promise you're safe. You'll always be safe. That's my #1 priority. Emma hugged him back, fierce and tight. Me pariu exane, Emma hugged him back. Fierce and tight. Fierce and tight. 1. Me parien. I know, Dad, you always keep me safe. Behind them, the curtain rustled. Tessa emerged, looking exhausted and out of place in yesterday's wrinkled suit, her blonde hair tangled, her split lips swollen. She stopped when she saw Emma, and something shifted in her expression, surprise, maybe, or recognition of how young Nine really was. Hi, Tessa said softly. You must be Emma. I'm Tessa. I'm sorry for taking your bed. Emma studied her with the frank assessment only kids could pull off. It's okay, Dad says you needed help. She paused, then added, your lip looks like it hurts. It does a little, Tessa admitted, but I've had worse. Travis stood, keeping one hand on Emma's shoulder. Go get changed. For school. We need to leave in 20 minutes. Emma nodded and grabbed her school clothes from the small dresser, disappearing into the bathroom. The moment the door closed, Travis turned to Tessa, his voice dropping low. We need a better plan than this. I can't bring you to Emma's school. I can't have you here when she gets home. This doesn't work. I know. Tessa wrapped her arms around herself, suddenly looking vulnerable again. I'll call my head of legal. Have him arrange a secure location. But Travis, I meant what I said last night. I need you. And I need to be a father first. Travis moved to the kitchen, started making Emma's lunch with mechanical efficiency. Peanut butter and jelly, apple slices, the granola bar she liked. Whatever we do, Emma can't be collateral damage. Agreed. Tessa joined him in the small kitchen space. What if we set you up with a separate apartment, something secure, close to here so you can still see Emma every day? I'll cover all costs. You work for me during school hours. You're with Emma every evening and weekend. Non-negotiable time with your daughter built into the contract. Travis paused mid-spread of peanut butter. You do that? Travis, I'm worth $3 billion. Securing a second apartment for your family's safety is barely a line item in my budget. Tessa's voice was matter-of-fact. And I'm not trying to buy you. I'm trying to solve a problem that benefits both of us. Before Travis could respond, Emma emerged from the bathroom in her school uniform navy pants and a white polo that was getting too small. She grabbed her backpack, then looked between the two adults with that too perceptive gaze. Are you staying, Tessa? Emma asked. Not here, Tessa said gently, but I might be around more. Would that be okay with you? Emma shrugged with 9-year-old nonchalance. But Travis saw the calculation behind her eyes. His daughter was trying to figure out what this meant, what was changing, whether she should be worried or hopeful. Sure, Emma said finally. Just don't take my bed again. Tessa laughed, a genuine sound that transformed her face. Deal. The walk to Emma's bus stop was quiet. Travis held his daughter's hand, acutely aware of how quickly she was growing, How few years he had left before hand-holding became embarrassing. At the corner, Emma turned to him with sudden seriousness. "Dad, that lady, she's important, isn't she? Like actually important?" "Yeah, she is." "And the people who hurt her, they're bad people?" Travis knelt down again, meeting her eyes. "Very bad people. Which is why I need to help her. And why I need you to be extra careful for a while. No talking to strangers, no wandering off. Always stay where Aunt Jennifer or I can see you, okay?" Emma nodded, but her next words gutted him. "Are the bad people going to come after us because you're helping her?" The question was too smart, too aware. Travis wanted to lie, to reassure her with false certainties. But Emma deserved better than that. She'd already lost her mother to forces beyond their control. He wouldn't insult her intelligence by pretending the world was safer than it was. "I'm going to make sure they don't," he said carefully. "And if anything feels wrong, anything at all, you tell a teacher or Aunt Jennifer immediately. You remember our code word?" "Pineapple," Emma said, referring to the safe word they'd established years ago. A silly word that meant real danger, no questions asked. "Good girl." Travis hugged her as the bus pulled up. "I love you more than anything in this world. You know that, right?" "I know, Dad." Emma squeezed him once more, then bounded onto the bus with forced cheerfulness that broke his heart. Travis watched the bus disappear around the corner, his hands clenched into fists. This was exactly what he'd tried to avoid, bringing danger near his daughter, letting the violent parts of his past contaminate their carefully normal life. But it was too late now. The moment he'd stepped in to save Tessa, he'd made a choice that rippled outward, touching everything he loved. When he returned to the apartment, Tessa was on her phone, speaking in rapid, clipped tones to someone about security protocols and legal documents. She looked up when Travis entered, ending the call quickly. "My team is arranging everything," she said. "New apartment, security upgrades for Emma's school, protective detail for your sister, all handled discreetly." "I don't want Emma to know about the protective detail," Travis said. "She's already scared. I won't make it worse." "Understood. They'll be invisible." Tessa stood, and for the first time since he'd met her, she looked genuinely uncertain. "Travis, I need to tell you something about why those men came after me." Travis crossed his arms, waiting. "McCarthy Global has been developing technology for clean energy storage, batteries that could revolutionize the renewable sector, make fossil fuels obsolete within a decade." Tessa's voice was steady, but her hands trembled slightly. "The prototypes alone are worth billions. The full production capability, hundreds of billions, maybe trillions over time. And someone wants to stop you," Travis said, understanding crystallizing. "Or steal it, or force me to sell to the right buyer." Tessa met his eyes. "I've refused acquisition offers from 3 major corporations in the past year. Turned down government contracts that had strings attached. I wanted this technology to be available to everyone, not locked behind patents and corporate interests." "That's noble," Travis said. "Also stupid, probably." Tessa smiled without humor. "But it's the right thing to do. This technology could help millions of people. I won't let it be buried or weaponized." Travis thought about Emma, about the world she'd inherit, thought about the missions he'd run to protect American interests that were really just corporate interests with a flag draped over them, thought about the cost of principle versus the cost of pragmatism. "Okay," he said finally, "then we protect you and your technology. But Tessa, you need to understand something. I've seen what happens when powerful people want something badly enough. This won't be the last attempt. It might not even be the worst." "I know." Tessa's voice was quiet but determined. "That's why I need you." Travis looked at this woman who was willing to risk everything for a principle, who slept in his daughter's bed and thanked a 9-year-old for her patience. Looked at someone who could have chosen safety and profit, but chose difficulty and integrity instead. Maybe, he thought, this wasn't just about money or security. Maybe this was about finding purpose again in something beyond survival. "All right," Travis said. "Let's get to work." Tessa McCarthy learned to read people before she learned to read balance sheets. It was a survival skill developed in foster care, refined in business school, perfected in boardrooms full of men who underestimated her. She could spot a lie in someone's posture, detect ambition in the tilt of their head, predict betrayal in the microsecond before their eyes shifted away. Travis Cooper was different. He didn't hide his emotions so much as contain them with military discipline. Every movement economical, every word measured, every glance calculated for threat assessment. But underneath that control, Tessa saw something she recognized from her own mirror: bone-deep exhaustion from carrying too much alone for too long. The secure apartment Tessa's team had arranged was in Ashford Heights, a development 15 minutes from Travis's current place. 2 bedrooms, modern security, furnished but impersonal. It looked like every corporate housing unit Tessa had ever stayed in, functional but soulless. Travis walked through it with the systematic efficiency of someone clearing a hostile building, checking sight lines and access points. Emma trailed behind him, eyes wide as she took in the polished floors and stainless appliances that looked nothing like their cramped studio. "This is where you'll stay when you're working with me," Tessa explained, watching Emma's reaction. "But your other apartment is still yours. This is just temporary." "It's really big," Emma said, peering into one of the bedrooms. "Can I pick which room is mine?" Travis started to object, but Tessa cut him off gently. "Of course you can. This is for your family. You should be comfortable here." Emma chose the room with better natural light, already planning where her books would go and whether her star-pattern curtain would fit the window. Watching her explore with cautious excitement, Tessa felt an unexpected pang. She'd never had this, the casual assumption of safety, a parent's protective presence, the luxury of childhood innocence. By age 9, Tessa had been on her 3rd foster placement, learning that adults were unreliable and the only person you could count on was yourself. "She's resilient," Tessa observed as Emma tested the mattress by bouncing on it experimentally. "She's had to be," Travis said, his voice tight. "No kid should have to be that resilient." "No," Tessa agreed quietly. "But some of us don't get a choice." Travis glanced at her, and Tessa saw the moment he understood they had more in common than he'd assumed. 2 people shaped by loss, by circumstances beyond their control, by the necessity of strength when they'd rather have had the luxury of weakness. That afternoon, while Emma was at school, Travis and Tessa sat in Tessa's downtown office, 40 stories up, glass walls overlooking the city, every surface reflecting wealth and power. Tessa's assistant had laid out files on everyone with access to her schedule the day of the kidnapping attempt. 17 names, each one a person Tessa had trusted. "Walk me through your typical security protocol," Travis said, spreading the files across her conference table. Tessa outlined the system: badge access, background checks, NDAs, surveillance cameras, all standard corporate security theater that had failed spectacularly when it mattered. "The problem isn't your security system," Travis said, studying a photo of Tessa's head of security, a former police captain named Richardson. "It's that someone inside bypassed it, which means we're looking for someone with both access and motivation. Half my board wanted me to sell to Helios Energy last quarter," Tessa said. "I refused. Threatened to resign and take my patents with me if they pushed." "How angry were they?" "Furious. 3 board members abstained from the next vote. Clear signal they'd lost confidence in my leadership." Tessa pulled up financial records on her tablet. "But angry enough to arrange kidnapping? That seems extreme." Travis didn't look up from the files. "You're worth billions. Your patents are worth more. Extreme is relative when the stakes are that high." They worked through lunch, Travis asking pointed questions about corporate structure and decision-making chains. Tessa watched him work, impressed by his tactical mind and how quickly he absorbed complex business concepts. This wasn't the janitor from the parking garage. This was someone who'd coordinated complex operations under pressure, who understood systems and human nature, and how to exploit both. "Tell me about Richardson," Travis said, tapping the security chief's photo. "Been with me for 3 years, former SWAT commander. Impeccable record." Tessa frowned. "I trust him completely. That's what concerns me." Travis met her eyes. "The best inside jobs come from people you'd never suspect." "How much does he know about your movements?" "Everything. He coordinates all my security." "Then he's either complicit or compromised." Travis made a note. "Either way, we can't trust him until we verify." The bluntness should have offended Tessa. Instead, she found it refreshing. No corporate politeness, no careful hedging. Just direct assessment and clear thinking. "You're good at this," she said. Travis shrugged. "It's just another type of mission. Identify the objective, assess the threats, neutralize the opposition." "Is that how you see me? As a mission objective?" The question came out before Tessa could stop it. Travis looked up, something shifting in his expression, a crack in that military composure. "No," he said slowly. "You're a person who needs help. There's a difference." "Is there?" Tessa stood, moving to the window. Below, the city sprawled in all its chaotic glory. Somewhere down there, people were trying to kill or kidnap her for business decisions she'd made. Because from where I'm standing, I'm always either an asset or an obstacle. Never just Tessa. She heard Travis stand, heard his footsteps approach. When he spoke, his voice was closer than expected. "When I saw those men grab you in the parking garage, I didn't think about your net worth or your company. I thought about my daughter, about how I'd want someone to help her if she was in danger." He paused. "You're a person, Tessa. A person who's in over her head and too stubborn to admit it." Tessa turned, finding Travis standing a few feet away, his expression unreadable but his eyes honest. "I'm not used to people seeing me as just a person," she admitted. "Yeah, well, I'm not used to billionaires sleeping in my daughter's bed and disrupting my entire life," Travis countered. "We're both in unfamiliar territory." Despite everything, Tessa laughed. "Fair point." Her phone buzzed with a message from her head of legal. The contracts were ready. Employment agreement for Travis. Trust fund for Emma. Life insurance policies. Security provisions. Everything Travis had asked for, formalized and binding. "The paperwork's ready," Tessa said. "Once you sign, you're officially my head of personal security, salary, benefits, the works." Travis took the phone, scrolling through the documents. His expression didn't change, but Tessa saw his hand tighten slightly on the device. "This is a lot of money," he said quietly. "It's appropriate compensation for the risk you're taking. For both of you." Tessa retrieved her phone. "Travis, I need you to understand something. This isn't charity. You saved my life. You're qualified for this position. You're earning every cent." "I know." But Travis's voice carried doubt. The kind that came from too many years of barely scraping by, of pride taking hits that money couldn't fully heal. "Sign the contracts," Tessa said gently. "Give Emma the stability she deserves. Let yourself stop drowning for once." Travis looked at her for a long moment. And Tessa saw the war happening behind his eyes. Pride versus practicality. Independence versus necessity. The past versus the future. Finally, he nodded. "Okay. But we're doing this right. Professional boundaries. Clear expectations. No blurred lines." "Agreed," Tessa said, even as something in her chest tightened at the mention of boundaries. They spent the rest of the afternoon reviewing security protocols and making plans. Travis would start officially the next day. Tonight, he'd spend with Emma, explaining the changes in terms a 9-year-old could understand without being terrified. As they prepared to leave, Tessa's phone rang. Richardson, her security chief, his voice tight with urgency. "Miss McCarthy, We have a situation. Someone accessed your home security system remotely, disabled the cameras for 47 minutes this morning. Tessa's blood went cold. When this morning? Between 6 and 7 a.m. The exact time she'd been at Travis's apartment, Emma in the next room, all of them vulnerable and unaware. Travis was already moving, his expression shifting into something hard and focused. We need to leave, now. But before they could reach the door, Tessa's office lights cut out. Emergency lighting kicked in, casting everything in red. And in that crimson glow, Tessa saw the message someone had left on her computer screen, 2 words that made her blood freeze. We're closer than you think. The building's backup power restored after 90 seconds. But the damage was done. Someone had breached McCarthy Global's supposedly impenetrable security, accessed Tessa's private office, left a message designed to terrify. Travis had his phone out immediately, dialing a number from memory. "Who are you calling?" Tessa asked, trying to keep her voice steady. "Someone I trust." Travis's expression was grim. "Someone outside your organization who can't be compromised." The call connected, and Travis spoke in clipped, efficient sentences. "It's Cooper. I need a favor. Security breach. Need a clean sweep. Multiple locations." "Yeah, that's serious. I'll send details." He ended the call and turned to Tessa. "Garrett Flynn, former teammate. Runs a private security consulting firm. He'll do a complete audit, your office, your home, your car, everything. If there are bugs, trackers, or surveillance we don't know about, he'll find them. Can we trust him?" The words felt absurd coming from Tessa's mouth. She'd built a multi-billion-dollar company on her judgment of people, and now she was asking a man she'd known for less than 24 hours who she could trust. "With my life," Travis said simply. "And with Emma's. That's all the recommendation you need." 2 hours later, Garrett Flynn arrived at the secure apartment with a team and equipment that looked like something from a spy movie. He was shorter than Travis, but built like a tank, with sharp eyes that missed nothing and an economy of movement that marked him as military. "Cooper," Garrett said, gripping Travis's hand. "Been too long, brother." "Not long enough if I'm calling you for this," Travis replied, but there was warmth in his voice Tessa hadn't heard before. Garrett's team swept the apartment, Tessa's office, even the car service vehicles she used. They found 4 listening devices, 1 in her office desk lamp, 1 in her home's main living area, 1 in her primary vehicle. The 4th was in a decorative pen on her desk, a gift from Richardson, her head of security. "Someone's been listening to everything," Garrett said, laying out the devices on the apartment's dining table. "These are quality equipment, professional grade, not something you pick up at a spy shop." Travis examined the devices with a familiarity that reminded Tessa he'd lived in a world where such things were commonplace. "How long have they been active?" "Based on the battery levels, I'd estimate 3 to 4 weeks for most of them." Garrett pulled up data on his tablet. "The one in her vehicle is older, maybe 2 months. Before the board vote on the Helios acquisition," Tessa said, her stomach sinking. "Someone's been gathering intelligence on me for months." Emma had been at school during the sweep, spared the knowledge that strangers had been listening to their conversations, tracking their movements. When Travis picked her up that afternoon, he did so with Garrett's team providing invisible overwatch, trained professionals who blended into the everyday traffic and pedestrians. That evening, while Emma did homework at the new apartment's kitchen table, Tessa and Travis sat in the living room with Garrett, reviewing everything they'd found. "Richardson's the obvious suspect," Garrett said. "The pen was his gift. He had access to place all the other devices." "Or someone wanted us to think it was Richardson," Travis countered. "Classic misdirection. Frame the security chief, and we stop looking for the real threat." Tessa listened to them, debate tactics and possibilities, their conversation laced with military jargon and references to operations she'd never heard of. They worked together with the easy synchronization of people who'd trusted each other in life or death situations. She felt suddenly aware of being an outsider to this world, This brotherhood forged in circumstances she couldn't fully understand. "I'm going to make tea," she said abruptly, needing to do something normal, something within her control. In the kitchen, Emma looked up from her math homework. "Are you okay, Tessa?" The question caught Tessa off guard. "Yes, sweetie. Why do you ask?" "You look like my dad does when he's worried but trying not to show it." Emma tilted her head, studying Tessa with those two perceptive gray eyes. "You scrunch your eyebrows together. Just a tiny bit." Tessa touched her forehead self-consciously. "I didn't realize I did that. Most people don't notice. But I'm good at noticing." Emma returned to her homework. "It's okay to be worried. You know, my dad says being worried means you care about something." The casual wisdom of a 9-year-old who'd learned too early to read adult emotions hit Tessa harder than expected. She sat down across from Emma, watching her work through multiplication problems with careful concentration. "Your dad is a good man," Tessa said quietly. "I know." Emma didn't look up. "He tries really hard to make everything okay, even when it's not." "Does it bother you that things aren't always okay?" Emma considered this, chewing on her pencil eraser. "Sometimes, but Dad says life is like my math homework. Sometimes the problems are easy, sometimes they're hard, but you keep working on them until you figure it out." Tessa smiled despite herself. "That's a good way to think about it. He tells me that when he's really talking about grown-up problems, not my homework." Emma finally looked up, her expression serious. "But it still helps. Because if he can keep figuring things out, then I can too." The kettle whistled, saving Tessa from responding. She made tea with hands that trembled slightly, struck by the weight of what Travis carried, this brilliant, perceptive daughter who watched him weather storms with quiet strength, who learned resilience not from lectures but from example. When Tessa returned to the living room with tea, she found Travis and Garrett standing close, speaking in low voices. They stopped when she entered, but not before she caught the tail end of their conversation. "Emma stays protected, no matter what," Travis was saying. "Always, brother. You know that." Garrett clapped him on the shoulder. "I've got 2 operators assigned to her school, another 2 on your sister's place. They won't see them, but they're there." After Garrett left, the apartment settled into an uneasy quiet. Emma retreated to her new bedroom to read before bed, leaving Travis and Tessa alone with their tea and their shared awareness that danger was closer than ever. "Thank you," Tessa said finally, "for calling Garrett, for taking this seriously." "This is serious." Travis sat forward, elbows on his knees. "Whoever's behind this has resources, patience, and inside access. They've been planning this for months, Tessa. The kidnapping attempt might have been just one option in a larger strategy. What do you think they'll try next? Depends on their objective. If they want to control you, they'll isolate you, cut off your support systems. If they want to replace you, they'll destroy your credibility." Travis met her eyes. "If they just want you gone, they'll try again to take you, or worse." The casual way he said, "or worse," sent a chill through Tessa. "You mean, kill me?" "I mean we prepare for every possibility and hope for the best outcome." Travis's voice softened slightly. "But yeah, that's a possibility we can't ignore." Tessa set down her tea, her hands steadier than she felt. "I'm not used to feeling helpless. I built my company from nothing. I've negotiated with people who wanted to destroy me. I've survived hostile takeover attempts and corporate espionage. But this is different. This is personal," Travis said. "And personal threats are always harder to rationalize or defend against." "Is that from experience?" Travis was quiet for a moment. "I lost people in Afghanistan, good people, not from enemy action, but from inside betrayal. Someone we trusted sold intel to insurgents. 3 members of my team died because of it." His jaw tightened. "I learned that the worst threats don't come from obvious enemies. They come from people you never thought would hurt you." "I'm sorry," Tessa said, meaning it. "It taught me to trust carefully and verify constantly." Travis looked toward Emma's closed door. and to protect what matters most, no matter the cost. They sat in companionable silence, two people from different worlds, finding unexpected common ground in shared vulnerability. Outside, the city glittered with indifferent beauty, full of people living ordinary lives, unaware of the small dramas of survival being played out in apartments and offices and quiet moments like this. "I never wanted kids," Tessa admitted suddenly. "Built my whole life around career and company. Thought relationships were distractions, that emotional attachments made you vulnerable." "They do," Travis said. "But they also give you a reason to fight, when everything else would tell you to give up. Emma's your reason. Emma's my everything." The simple honesty in his voice made Tessa's chest tight. "Every decision I make, every risk I take or don't take, it's all filtered through what's best for her. Some people might call that weakness. I call it purpose." Tessa thought about her own life, about the carefully constructed empire she'd built with no one to inherit it, no one to fight for beyond herself. She'd called it freedom. Sitting here, watching Travis's quiet devotion to his daughter, she wondered if she'd just been afraid. "She's lucky to have you," Tessa said. "I'm lucky to have her." Travis stood, collecting their empty cups. "You should get some rest. Tomorrow, we start digging into who's behind this. It's going to be a long day." But as Travis moved toward the kitchen, Tessa stood too, driven by an impulse she didn't fully understand. "Travis, wait." He turned, and in the soft lamplight of the unfamiliar apartment, something shifted between them. Not attraction exactly, though Tessa couldn't deny the pull. Something deeper: recognition. Two people who'd built walls for survival suddenly seeing those walls reflected in each other. "Thank you," Tessa said quietly. "Not for the security or the protection. For seeing me. For treating Emma with kindness. For being exactly who you are instead of who you think I need you to be." Travis held her gaze, and for a moment, his military composure cracked just enough for Tessa to see the man underneath exhausted, determined, carrying more weight than anyone should have to carry alone. "You're welcome," he said finally. Then, almost reluctantly, he added, "For what it's worth, you're not what I expected either." In a good way. It wasn't a declaration or a promise, just an acknowledgement that something had begun to shift, that the careful boundaries they'd agreed on were already more complicated than either of them had anticipated. Emma's voice called from her room, asking if she could read for 10 more minutes. Travis smiled, the expression transforming his face. 20 minutes, he called back. But then lights out. And just like that, the moment passed, returning them to their roles: protector and protected, employer and employee, two people navigating an impossible situation, with only trust and determination as their guides. But as Tessa retreated to her own room, she carried with her the memory of that brief connection, that glimpse of mutual understanding. In a world where everyone wanted something from her, Travis Cooper wanted nothing, except to keep his daughter safe and do his job well. That, Tessa realized, might be the most dangerous thing of all. The attack came 3 days later, not in darkness, but in broad daylight at Emma's school. Travis was conducting a security review at McCarthy Global's data center when Garrett's call came through. 2 words that stopped his heart. Code Pineapple. Emma had used their emergency signal. Travis was moving before conscious thought kicked in, leaving Tessa mid-sentence with her CFO. He took the stairs because elevators were too slow. His phone pressed to his ear as Garrett fed him information. 2 men approached the playground during recess, tried to get Emma to come with them, said you'd been in an accident. She ran to a teacher and said, "Pineapple, school's in lockdown. My team has eyes on her. But Cooper, they knew about your daughter." Travis hit the parking garage at a dead run, his mind already calculating routes and response times. 15 minutes to Pine Ridge Elementary, if traffic cooperated. An eternity when your daughter was the target. He made it in 11, driving with the aggressive precision of someone trained in tactical vehicle operations. Garrett's team had established a perimeter around the school. The 2 men who'd approached Emma were gone, disappeared into the surrounding neighborhood before lockdown. Protocols engaged. Travis found Emma in the principal's office, sitting between a teacher and one of Garrett's operators who'd posed as a visiting parent. She looked small and scared, her school uniform rumpled, her eyes red from crying. When she saw Travis, she launched herself at him with the kind of desperate relief that shattered what was left of his composure. "I remembered the code word, Dad," she said against his chest. "I remembered and I ran." "You did perfect, sweetheart, so perfect." Travis held her tight, his hands shaking with adrenaline and fury. "You're safe now. I've got you." But even as he said it, Travis knew the truth. Nowhere was safe anymore. They'd come after Emma to get to him, to pressure Tessa through him. His worst nightmare had materialized in a school playground in the middle of an ordinary Tuesday. Tessa arrived 20 minutes later, having commandeered her driver and broken probably a dozen traffic laws. She found Travis in the hallway outside the principal's office, his back against the wall, his expression harder than she'd ever seen it. "Is Emma okay?" Tessa asked. "Physically, yes." Travis's voice was flat, controlled. "Emotionally, she just learned that being my daughter makes her a target." "This is my fault," Tessa said, the words catching in her throat. "They came after her because of me, because of what I hired you to do." "No." Travis pushed off the wall, his eyes blazing with barely contained rage. "They came after her because they're desperate and ruthless, because they've escalated beyond corporate espionage into threatening a 9-year-old. He took a breath, visibly forcing calm. "This ends now, Tessa. We're not waiting for them to make the next move. What are you suggesting? We go on offense. We identify who's behind this, and we take them down before they can try again." Travis moved closer, his voice dropping. "I've been playing defense, trying to keep everyone safe, through passive security. That's not enough, anymore. We need to flush out whoever's orchestrating this, and end the threat permanently." Tessa had built her company on calculated risks and strategic aggression. But this was different. This was Travis's daughter, and the look in his eyes told her he was willing to do things she might not want to know about. "Tell me what you need," she said. "Access to everything. Your financial records, board communications, security logs. Every piece of data McCarthy Global has collected." Travis's expression was grim. "And I need you to trust me when I tell you some of what I'm going to do isn't strictly legal." "I trust you," Tessa said without hesitation. In that moment, standing in a elementary school hallway with fluorescent lights humming overhead and the distant sound of restless students in lockdown, something fundamental shifted between them. This wasn't employer and employee anymore. This was partnership forged in shared threat and mutual protection. Travis held her gaze for a long moment, then nodded once. "Then let's finish this." The next 48 hours blurred into a relentless investigation. Travis moved Emma and Jennifer to a secure location. Garrett had arranged a safe house in the suburbs with round-the-clock protection. Emma had been brave about it, but Travis saw the fear in her eyes, the way she checked door locks compulsively and startled at unexpected sounds. He'd done that to her, brought danger into their carefully protected life. At the secure apartment, Travis and Tessa worked around the clock, fueled by coffee and determination. Garrett's digital forensics team combed through McCarthy Global's systems, while Travis applied pattern recognition skills honed in intelligence analysis. Tessa provided context, identifying anomalies in board behavior and financial irregularities she'd previously dismissed as administrative errors. "Here," Tessa said at 2 a.m. on the second night, highlighting a series of wire transfers. "These payments were authorized by Richardson, supposedly for upgraded security equipment. But I never approved purchases of this magnitude." Travis traced the money trail, his expression darkening. "These accounts are shells. The money's being laundered through 3 different countries before disappearing." He pulled up more data. Richardson's been siphoning funds for 8 months, nearly $4 million. "But why?" Tessa leaned over his shoulder, close enough that Travis caught her scent, something floral and expensive that didn't match the exhaustion in her voice. "He makes excellent money. Why risk everything? Leverage, Travis said grimly. Someone found his weakness and exploited it. We need to find out what they have on him. Garrett's team found the answer in Richardson's personal emails, carelessly deleted but recoverable. His daughter, a college student in California, had been arrested for drug possession, serious charges that could have destroyed her future. The charges had mysteriously disappeared, and Richardson's behavior had changed shortly after. They got to him through his daughter, Tessa said, understanding dawning. They made the legal problems go away in exchange for access to me. And when the kidnapping attempt failed, they escalated to threatening Emma. Travis added, classic escalation pattern. Apply pressure until the target breaks or makes a mistake. So Richardson is compromised but not necessarily the mastermind, Tessa said. Who's pulling his strings? The answer came from an unexpected source. One of Tessa's board members, Vincent Harlow, had made several encrypted calls to an unlisted number in the hours following the school incident. Garrett's team traced the number to a private equity firm known for hostile takeovers and asset stripping, Meridian Capital Group. Meridian tried to invest in McCarthy Global 2 years ago, Tessa said, pulling up old correspondence. I refused. They wanted controlling interest in board seats. I told them I'd rather burn the company down than let vulture capitalists gut it for parts. Looks like they decided to take it anyway, Travis said. Force you out, install their own CEO, strip the valuable patents and sell off the rest. Tessa's phone buzzed with an incoming message from an unknown number. One final offer. Resign by Friday and walk away with your life. Refuse, and everyone you care about pays the price. Travis read the message over her shoulder, his jaw tightening. They're getting desperate. That's good. How is a death threat good? Tessa asked, though her voice remained steady. Because desperate people make mistakes, Travis said. And we're going to exploit every single one. They worked through the night, building a comprehensive case file. Financial fraud, corporate espionage, attempted kidnapping, threats against a minor. Enough evidence to destroy Meridian and everyone involved, but Travis knew evidence alone wouldn't stop people this ruthless. As dawn broke over the city, Tessa finally collapsed on the couch, too exhausted to make it to the bedroom. Travis found her there an hour later, asleep sitting up, her tablet still clutched in her hands. He should have woken her, told her to get proper rest. Instead, he carefully removed the tablet, found a blanket, and draped it over her sleeping form. In sleep, her face relaxed, losing the sharp edges of constant vigilance. She looked younger, vulnerable in a way she'd never allow while conscious. Travis settled into the chair across from her, his own exhaustion a weight in his bones. But he didn't sleep. Someone had to keep watch. Someone had to make sure the people he was learning to care about stayed safe. When Tessa woke 3 hours later, she found Travis exactly where she'd last seen him, alert despite obvious fatigue. Their eyes met across the quiet apartment, and something unspoken passed between them, gratitude, understanding, and the recognition that they'd both crossed lines they couldn't uncross. We're close, Travis said simply. One more piece and we'll have everything we need. Tessa nodded, straightening her rumpled clothes. Then let's finish this. I want my life back. I want Emma to feel safe again. The fact that she'd said Emma's name, included her in the equation of what mattered, made Travis's chest tighten with an emotion he wasn't ready to name. We will, he promised, whatever it takes. The confrontation happened in Tessa's office on Friday morning, exactly when Meridian's ultimatum expired. Travis had arranged it carefully, ensuring every word would be recorded, every threat documented. Garrett's team had swept the office again, removing Meridian's surveillance and replacing it with their own. Vincent Harlow arrived first, his expensive suit and practiced smile failing to hide the nervousness in his eyes. Richardson came next, looking haggard and defeated, knowing his betrayal had been discovered. The final guest was Marcus Chen, Meridian's CEO, a man whose reputation for ruthless business practices preceded him by decades. Tessa sat behind her desk, projecting calm authority despite the rage Travis knew she was containing. He stood beside her, positioned where he could intercept any threat while remaining seemingly casual. "Gentlemen," Tessa said coolly, "thank you for accepting my invitation. We're here for your resignation," Chen said, dispensing with pleasantries, "and the transfer of your patents to Meridian's subsidiary company. Everything's been prepared. You just need to sign." "I have a counter-proposal," Tessa said. "You confess to attempted kidnapping, corporate espionage, fraud, and threats against a minor. Then you pray the federal prosecutor I've been working with feels merciful." Chen's smile didn't waver. "You have no proof, and even if you did, my legal team would bury you in litigation for decades. You'd be bankrupted before you ever got to trial." Travis stepped forward slightly, drawing Chen's attention. "We have Richardson's full confession. We have the financial records showing your payments. We have communications between Harlow and your operations team. We have everything." Richardson flinched at his name, but Harlow maintained his composure. "Richardson is a disgruntled employee facing embezzlement charges. His word means nothing." "Maybe," Travis said, "but the encrypted server we recovered from his office has copies of every instruction you sent him, every threat you made, every illegal order you gave. That's pretty compelling evidence." For the first time, Chen's expression cracked. "You're bluffing." "Am I?" Tessa pulled up a file on her screen, turned it to show them. Communication logs, financial transfers, video footage from Richardson's home security system showing Harlow delivering instructions. "This is just a sample. We have dozens of hours of recordings, hundreds of pages of documents, enough to put all of you in federal prison for the next 20 years. The office fell silent. Travis watched Chen calculate options, watched Harlow realize his careful planning had been systematically dismantled. Richardson just looked relieved that it was finally over. "What do you want?" Chen asked finally. "Justice," Tessa said simply. "You threatened my life. You came after a 9-year-old to pressure me. You corrupted my security chief and tried to steal my company. There's no deal here, Chen, just consequences. You self-righteous little girl." Chen spat, his composure finally breaking. "You think you're better than everyone else with your ethical business practices and your philanthropic nonsense. You're naive. This is how the world actually works." "No," Travis said quietly. "This is how your world works, and it's about to collapse." The FBI agents arrived exactly on schedule, led by a woman Travis had worked with during his Navy days. They arrested all 3 men on multiple federal charges. As they were led away in handcuffs, Richardson stopped in front of Tessa. "I'm sorry," he said hoarsely. "My daughter, they were going to ruin her life. I thought I was protecting her." "I know," Tessa said, and Travis heard genuine sympathy in her voice. "But you should have come to me. We could have fought them together." After they'd gone, Tessa and Travis stood alone in her office. The city stretching out below them, bright and indifferent to the small victory they'd just won. "It's over," Tessa said, but her voice shook slightly. "It's over," Travis confirmed. Then, because he couldn't help himself, he added, "You were incredible." Tessa turned to him, and Travis saw tears threatening at the corners of her eyes, the first real crack in her armor since this whole nightmare began. "I was terrified. Being brave means being terrified and doing it anyway," Travis said, moving closer. "Emma taught me that." "How is she, really?" "Scared, but resilient. Like her old man." Travis managed a slight smile. "She wants to know if you're okay. She's been worried about you." The tears spilled over then, and without thinking, Travis pulled Tessa into his arms. She clung to him, shaking with released tension and relief, while Travis held her and let her be vulnerable in a way the world rarely allowed. When she finally pulled back, she looked embarrassed. "I'm sorry. That was unprofessional." "Tessa," Travis said gently, "we stopped being just professional about a week ago." She laughed through her tears, and the sound was the most genuine thing Travis had heard from her yet. 3 weeks later, Travis sat on a park bench, watching Emma play on the swings, her laughter carrying across the playground. The protective detail was still there, but more distant now, the immediate threat neutralized. Emma didn't know they were there, and that was fine. She was learning to feel safe again, slowly releasing the fear that had gripped her since the school incident. Tessa appeared beside him, carrying coffee from the cart near the park entrance. She handed him one and sat down, comfortable in jeans and a casual sweater that made her look nothing like a billionaire CEO. "I never thanked you properly," Tessa said. "For everything you did. For protecting Emma, for believing me, for not walking away when things got dangerous." "You paid me extremely well," Travis said dryly. "Pretty sure that counts as thanks." "You know what I mean." Tessa bumped his shoulder with hers. "You changed my life, Travis Cooper. Saved it, actually. Multiple times." "You changed mine too," Travis admitted. "Gave me a chance to be more than just surviving. Gave Emma opportunities I never could have provided." They sat in companionable silence, watching Emma teach another girl how to pump her legs on the swings. The scholarship fund Tessa had established in Sarah's name had launched last week, helping dozens of families. Emma had attended the ceremony, proud and solemn, understanding in her own way that her mother's memory was helping others. "I've been thinking," Tessa said carefully, "about next steps. For the company, for my security needs, for everything." Travis tensed slightly, anticipating what was coming. Their contract had been specific temporary protection during an active threat. That threat was gone now. He should feel relieved. Instead, he felt something uncomfortably close to loss. "I want you to stay on," Tessa continued. "As head of security, but also as an advisor. Someone who tells me the truth even when it's uncomfortable. Someone who sees me as a person, not just a balance sheet." "Tessa, let me finish." She turned to face him. "I know this wasn't what you signed up for. I know you wanted simple and temporary. But Travis, I don't want to go back to the way things were before. Isolated, trusting no one, building walls to keep everyone at a safe distance. You showed me there's another way to live." Travis looked at Emma, still playing with the same unconscious joy he'd fought so hard to preserve. Looked at the woman beside him, who'd somehow become part of their small family without either of them planning it. "Emma likes having you around," he said finally. "She asks about you when you're not there. Wants to know if you're coming for dinner." "And what about you?" Tessa asked quietly. "What do you want?" Travis met her eyes, seeing the vulnerability there, the hope she was trying and failing to hide. "I want to stop being afraid of living again. I want Emma to grow up knowing that good things can happen after loss, that it's possible to rebuild." "Is that a yes?" "That's a yes to figuring it out together," Travis said. Slowly, carefully. "No pressure, no expectations beyond what we both feel comfortable with." Tessa smiled, genuine and bright. "I can work with that." Emma ran over then, breathless and happy. "Dad, Tessa, did you see? I was swinging so high." "We saw, kiddo," Travis said, ruffling her hair. "You were amazing." "Can Tessa come for dinner tonight?" Emma asked, bouncing on her toes. "Please? I want to show her my science project." Travis looked at Tessa, raising an eyebrow in question. She nodded, her smile softening. "I'd love to," Tessa said to Emma. "What are we having?" "Spaghetti. It's my favorite, and Dad makes it really good." As they walked back through the park, Emma between them, holding both their hands, Travis felt something he hadn't experienced in years. Not just survival or determination or the grim satisfaction of completing a mission. Actual happiness, the possibility of a future that included more than just getting through each day. At the park entrance, Emma ran ahead to the parking area, and Travis and Tessa fell back into step together. "Thank you," Travis said quietly, "for seeing past who I thought I had to be." "Thank you for showing me who I could be," Tessa replied. They didn't kiss, didn't make grand declarations or promises they weren't ready to keep. They simply walked forward together, toward where Emma waited by the car, toward whatever came next. And for the first time in a long time, Travis wasn't afraid of what that might be. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out, and don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.